Rock and roll.
Good morning. Hello, hello. Woohoo! That was a good one. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Coffee Time with Marie Teresa, CPA. If you are returning to the show, welcome. We love having you here. If you are new to the show, please make sure to put a thumbs up or hands up down in the chat so we know you are new. Thank you for joining us today. As always, I remind everybody to make sure to subscribe the channel that you are watching or listening to us on. We are live every Thursday on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So please make sure you click subscribe, you click on the bell, you do what you got to do to make sure that you are with us every Thursday. Um, just a quick intro. I am your host, Marie Teresa, CPA. I am just getting stuck here. I am so excited, by the way, guys, because I have a special guest for you. So I'm all like so happy. So again, I'm your host, Marie Teresa. I'm a certified public accountant and a chartered global management accountant, an auditor and a CFO. I have created a very special methodology, evaluation MT, which I use to help business owners to grow from their first million to 10 million and more. I have also authored a couple of books, which I will put the links in the chat. I want to save as much time to make sure I introduce you to my special guest. So today, as always, I have my colleague, my friend, and tax partner, Pedro Gonzalez, CPA. Good morning, Pedro.
Good morning. Good morning, Marie. Good morning, everybody. Pedro Gonzalez, CPA, business and tax strategist. We're here to help you achieve your financial goals. We achieve that at least through three fronts. That is your cash flow. In this economy is extremely critical right now. We're doing a lot of work on that area, helping a lot of businesses in that area of the cash flow, taxation. It erodes wealth regardless of where your business and situation is at the moment. So, and then finally the exit strategy. We're all gonna exit. It's just gonna depend how we're gonna exit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And today, actually, Pedro is going to help be my co host as we introduce my special guest. Today, our special guest is from Canada. Yay! Douglas Cowgill is a partner of Cross Border Visas, U.S. Business Immigration Lawyers. He is a U.S. licensed attorney and a licensed practitioner of foreign law with the British Columbia Law Society. He is an active member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Previously, he worked for one of the largest immigration firms in North America, assisting individuals and corporations of all sizes with a vast array of immigration services, including non-immigrant work visas, green cards, waivers of inadmissibility, and U.S. renunciation of citizenship applications. One of his primary goals is to develop meaningful relationship with his clients so that they feel confident about the attorney handling their case. He represents clients with a wide variety of U.S. immigration applications, including TN visas, E1 visas, E2 visas, think about that, H1B visas, L1 visas, green cards through family sponsorship, green cards through employment, renunciation of U.S. citizenship, and waivers of inadmissibility. He earned his BA degree and a JD degree, both from the University of Wisconsin. Douglas, welcome to the show, Coffee Time.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me, Marie and Pedro. This is it's an honor to join you guys today.
We love having you. So before we go into the questions, I want to take one moment, Doug, if it's okay with you, just to tell everybody some of the things we've talked about in the past couple of shows. Guys, just a quick summary. Make sure to go check out some of the shows we've done in the past where we've talked about self-employment. We have a lot on that. We've done tax planning. We've talked about 1031 exchanges. We've talked about motivation, mindset, entrepreneurship. We've also talked about recently IRS tax audits and financial audits. But today, we will be focusing on especially E2 visas, okay, to the US. And here we have our expert, Douglas Cowgill. So, Doug, we're going to start, especially, we want to get to know you. We want to know why you chose this area of law. Tell us a little bit about yourself and our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you alluded to in my background, I'm originally from the United States. I went to law school in the United States, became a lawyer in Wisconsin and also in Washington. And when I initially went to law school, my goal was to do something more ideological, like environmental law, perhaps. But as reality sunk in and I had bills to pay and my background wasn't really suitable for that area, I was kind of at a time struggling to find what my career path would be. And actually what got me into immigration law is a relationship I developed with my now wife, who was in Canada. Mm-hmm. And she already had her career lined up as a teacher and was pretty adamant that she did not want to live in the United States. So that led me to move to Canada. And as part of that, I went through the immigration journey myself, not obviously to the United States, but to Canada. And that, introduced me to that process of applying for a work visa, applying for permanent resident status, applying for Canadian citizenship. And it was something that I didn't really envision was an area that people would perhaps need services with when I was going through law school, or that it would be rewarding. But as it turns out, I think the process of helping people move from one country to another, just as I did, is an area where I found you can not only provide expertise, but also really help people get from where they are to where they want to go in life. And it is really rewarding to see visas approved and people following their dreams into a new country.
Yeah. I've actually been in Canada for a little while before I actually did the other way around, where my husband is actually from the US and I had to move to the US because he did not want to go to Canada.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen. We have those kind of relationships, that kind of connection between the economies where people are crossing the border all the time, and it led to an opportunity for me as a U.S. lawyer moving to Canada in a market where there aren't a lot of U.S. licensed lawyers to provide a service that a lot of Canadians are now looking for, which is help with U.S. immigration. And it was one of the few areas where I wouldn't have to go back to law school in Canada and kind of convert my U.S. law degree to a Canadian law degree. I could just, take the schooling I had done, the bars I had passed in the United States, and take all that knowledge and provide services from Canada for people that are looking for this support.
Yeah, that is so awesome. That is awesome. You found a niche. This is all about finding a niche, right? It's a perfect niche. Absolutely. So what are the biggest trends that you're seeing, at least, especially in the last 2.5 years, especially with COVID and all the stuff that happened? What are the biggest trends that you're seeing now in immigration to the U.S.?
Yeah. So I would say that we're seeing specific case types being utilized more than in the past. The E2 investor case, which I think we'll talk about in more detail, is certainly one of those. We're seeing a lot of Canadians that are looking at places in the United States and seeing opportunities to develop a business. And also perhaps they have more of an ideological connection with specific areas of the United States. And they're sitting on capital gains in Canada from real estate that's just boomed. And so they're thinking this is a time perhaps to cash out of Canada and enter the US market. And we're seeing that in droves. We're seeing a lot of Canadians that have developed lives here in Canada now looking to move to the United States and take a different path in life. The other thing that we're seeing, of course, due to the pandemic, the government agencies have reacted kind of slowly, in my opinion, to processing cases and having proper procedures in place to get through cases in a timely manner. So applications that perhaps used to take 2 to 3 months are now taking 6 to 8 months.
Wow.
You're seeing interview delays at specific times if there's an outbreak at the consulate or if the staff is short on who can see the applicants at their office. So increases to processing times have become a reality, and it's kind of an unfortunate norm now of the pandemic. But I think other than that, the other shift has been from the Trump administration to the Biden administration, which in my experience has been favorable for most individuals seeking to immigrate to the United States. I think we're seeing a reversal on some of the policies that the Trump administration had implemented, such as no longer deferring to prior approvals within the USCIS agency. That policy was reversed. So now the Biden administration is deferring to prior approvals if, for example, you're extending a work visa with the same employer. And so we're seeing, I think, a higher approval rate as a result of that change from immigration agencies like USCIS.
Got it. Is it similar on the, let's say, in the family, visas? Let's say if a family's, bringing a family member, or is it different?
Yeah, I think the family visas, the main impact on that at the moment is just the processing time as it relates to what specific relationship you have. If you have a spouse who is a U.S. citizen, that category has largely remained untouched, and you've been able to get through the system. Again, there have been delays at consulate locations like the U.S. Consulate of Montreal for citizens of Canada. If you're in the United States and you can file for an adjustment of status, I'd say that those types of cases haven't seen as significant of impacts as people who are abroad. Other types of relationships, like parents of U.S. citizens over the age of 21, did have a bit of a problem earlier in the pandemic, as consulate essentially decided not to process those cases for a specific period of time. But that has now reopened, and so there still might be a bit of a backlog as far as they do get through cases in the order that they're filed.
Right.
But they're working through that, and I think it's just a matter of time before they catch up.
Yeah, understood. That's good to know. Any thoughts, Pedro? I feel like you're thinking about a question.
Yeah. No, but I guess the thing is, my interest is more about the investor visa. You know what I mean? It's a topic that I want to take advantage of this conversation, because dealing with entrepreneurs and so on. So, we're familiar with the E2, but what other types of investor visas? Probably some of the audience might not be aware that there's other ones out there. So if you can share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the E2 is the most common, I would say, because it is defined as the treaty investor category. So usually if you're making an investment in the United States, that's probably a starting point to look at. But there are other categories, and one that we used a lot during the pandemic was the L1. And this isn't an investment category. This is to transfer a manager or executive from a Canadian business to a U.S. company. And you might think, well, how does that relate to an investment? Well, if you own a business in Canada, and rather than close or sell that business, you keep it open and invest in a U.S. affiliate or U.S. subsidiary, you can then potentially transfer yourself as the manager or executive of the business in the L1 category to work for either a 3-year period or a 1-year period if it's a new office. And the reason that we were recommending this strategy for a lot of citizens of Canada specifically is that, unlike the e-visa category, which has to go through the U.S. consulate system and is that agency that's had a lot of delays in processing applications, L1s have the option to be submitted at the port of entry. And so essentially an applicant can just go to the port of entry, like a U.S. land crossing or a pre-flight inspection facility, submit the L1 paperwork at that port of entry, and obtain the work visa on the spot. And so if they have a plan of investing in a U.S. business and creating jobs, and they can relate that to a Canadian business they already own, then that is a category that we were using a lot to bypass that wait period for the e-visa category. And when I say Canadian business, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Canadian business. You could have a UK business. You could have a Spanish business. It's mostly, I would say, our firm deals with Canadians because we are based in Canada. But the key is really that you have a business outside of the United States, and now you're looking to invest in an affiliate company in the United States. And so that would be one option. The other The other category that investors often use is more of a permanent solution, the EB-5 investor visa. This visa category for people looking to move to the United States has been very confusing. This is one that's had several policy changes throughout the pandemic. There are essentially two different ways that you could get an EB-5 green card. One is if you invest in a regional center, which is a pre-approved investment business that USCIS believes is a legitimate business that can take this investment from foreign investors. The other is if you invest in your own business and you invest over the threshold that is required to satisfy the EB-5. The strange thing, though, is as part of ongoing legislation, the regional center programs have essentially ran into a roadblock. They've now decided that that program is on hold, and we're awaiting future legislation to reestablish it as a legitimate option for regional center investors going forward. You still do potentially have the option to get a green card by investing in your own business. I would say that's less common. Most investors that we've dealt with are typically investing in the regional center due to the fact that it has been pre-approved by USCIS.
Okay, that's great. As far as do you only work with Canadian investors, or are you open to other?
Yeah, so we work with citizens of any country. Again, as a firm based in Canada, most of our inquiries or referrals come from people that are based here in Canada. But we have been able to assist clients all over the world, from the United Kingdom to Asia to South America. And the categories that are available are pretty much the same, regardless of nationality, especially as it relates to like the E2.
Mm-hmm.
Each consulate that you're dealing with has a different process, and so we have to go about figuring out what each consulate wants from us for each specific applicant. But the overall concept of like an E2 is the same. It's an investor who is opening a U.S. business, typically investing a substantial amount into an active company that will typically employ U.S. workers within the next 5-year period.
Right. And when you say, for example, just for those who are listening, when you say a significant, what is significant? Is there what is the minimum threshold? Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So typically, the consulate, I should say generally, the consulate doesn't have a bright line number, which is frustrating, I know, for a lot of people.
Yes.
However, the consulate in its foreign affairs manual talks about a proportionality test where you kind of compare what has been invested to what will need to be invested to successfully get this business up and running.
Okay.
And in that proportionality test, there's reference to $100,000 investment being sufficient if that is 100% of what is required to start the business. So I guess there's kind of two different ways to look at that. If you buy an existing business and the purchase price is $100,000, it's already an operating business,
right,
that should be viewed as substantial. If you start a new business and you invest $100,000 in equipment, your office, your maybe initial employee, your lease agreement, and now you can provide services, that also should be viewed as a substantial investment.
right.
But I would say at the same time, that $100,000 amount isn't necessarily the baseline. There certainly is an ability to get an investor visa with a lower investment amount if, again, you can successfully show that that is 100% of what's required, and this will be a business that is profitable and employing U.S. workers in the next 5-year period. On the flip side, it might seem strange if you have, like, let's say $150,000 investment, but this business is going to need $3 million to get up and running. They might, on the proportionality test, not view that as a substantial investment because it's percentage-wise nowhere near that 100% mark. So even though the investment amount is larger initially, as it relates to the percentage required to start the business, it'd be much lower.
Yeah, definitely. Understood. And then, so what are some of the specific, I guess, requirements, if you were going to give us a very high level, not going into too much detail, but like, what are key things that a possible investor should be, considering to be ready for if they're going to do like select an E2 investor application?
Yeah. So the first thing is, you need to be a citizen of a treaty country. That's a starting point to qualify. And so Canada obviously is does have a treaty with the United States. And if you're not a citizen of Canada, if you're a citizen of a different country, the U.S. State Department does have a list that you can look at, that we could share a resource with, that you can quickly verify if your nationality, if your passport country is on that list. And so the consulate will be looking first for you as the applicant, is your nationality on that list. Second, they'll be looking at the business and its ownership. Again, most of the investors we deal with are the owners of the business, so there would be a match between the nationality of the business owners and the applicant. Usually they're the same. But if there's not a match, if you're working for a different business that has a different owner, they're going to want to see that the owner's nationality matches your nationality. And so that's the second criteria that they're going to be looking at. Third, they're going to be looking at the investment that you're making. How much is it? Is it at risk? Is it, can you prove that you've spent the money or will be spending the money? And number four, is it into an active business as opposed to like a passive real estate investment? I think these are the main things that they're going to be looking at. And so when we go to the at-risk portion of an investment, it's not sufficient to just transfer $100,000 to a bank account in the United States and say, I'm going to be using this. This is my operating capital. They want to see that you've spent that money on something that is related to your business, like a vehicle or commercial space. And if you can show that, then they are typically going to approve most e-visas, in my experience, because they are trying to promote investment and job creation in the United States. But It's not sufficient to just have the money set aside to invest, get the visa perhaps in your mind, and then go and make the investment. So I think there is some frustration with clients. They just kind of see it as a chicken and egg problem. Well, how can I make it?
Absolutely. I can see that. I can totally see that. It's like, do I do this one or this one first? Kind of like rolling together.
But it's almost kind of, you do have to take a leap of faith in most of these applications and put your money at risk and trust that the consulate will see that this is a legitimate business that will likely support U.S. employment in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And and one of the key things that I wanted to bring up here is that you and I had a couple of common clients actually, and we had to put together a business plan to kind of support this. How important do you think is a business plan and projections as you're submitting this type of an application?
I think for any new business, it's critical. I think they're definitely looking at a business plan as, giving them a sense for what this business will do. You can provide them your incorporation documents, your attorney can prepare a cover letter, you can provide bank statements and receipts. But if they don't have a sense for what this business will do, what it's projected to do, what kind of people you're going to be employing, most of those cases I think are going to struggle. And on the flip side, individuals that go and get a professional business plan done, I can't recall any cases that we've seen refused with that type of specific documentation, especially detailed business plans that go through all the various areas you might be thinking about as you're trying to open a business. Who are the competitors? Mm-hmm. Why have you identified this location? What kind of revenue do you anticipate in the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years? What staff members do you think you need to hire, and when do you need to hire them? And just kind of an oversense, why have you chosen this business and why do you think it will succeed? The professional business plans that I've seen all convey that kind of information. And that's exactly what U.S. Consulate's looking for. It's what USCIS is looking for. And I've had a lot of success with those kind of cases where you have a professional business plan. And so my sense is that is something the government is very much looking to see for all these cases, especially new businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Pedro, do you have any other questions? I thought you were going to ask something. I just want to make sure I'm not hogging the whole.
No. It's everything. No, this is a very interesting topic. We have discussed even in other occasions, you and I, as far as the immigration into the United States. And I think a lot of people will benefit from this information. So I'm enjoying the conversation, and I think a lot of the people listening to this will also gain a good understanding. about what is needed, because like you said, it's not simply to deposit money in a U.S. bank account and assume that, okay, that's it. The other aspect that probably some people don't understand, the importance of a solid presentation, from the application, the financials that are going to support this investment. In the end, any country, I imagine Canada will be the same. If I'm going to go over there, they want to see that I'm not just simply going to end up being I'm sorry to say, but a kind of a weight into the economy. Instead, I'm going over there to either invest. I'm going to go there and create employment. It's the same here in the United States. They want to see that you have a solid business. That the way that you demonstrate that, in this case, could be a solid business plan, a solid documentation about the application, so there's no hiccups in the process.
What I found it very interesting, Doug, is that I didn't realize that, part of that, because it can also be purchasing an existing business, or the other one you mentioned where they can purchase an affiliate in the US and be able to transfer a manager, and now they have someone working here instead of I did not even know that one. That was a very good one to know. I think our audience will like that.
Absolutely. Well, and so we are aware of these options because we see them coming from our Canadian clients mostly, and other clients around the world, just the various services we've been providing and applications we've assisted with. Those have been the two main ones for business owners, either the E2 or the L1. And the L1, I think, it's a great option for people that are trying to get there sooner because of the faster processing time at the moment.
Right.
In addition to that, there's also a potential path with that to a green card for the permanent transfer of a manager, as opposed to the temporary transfer of a manager. And that green card category would be the EB1C category. And so it's become an attractive option because of that path, where you can both start with a non-immigrant visa that can be attained relatively quickly, and also provide a long-term path to becoming a permanent resident in the United States, which then potentially allows for a U.S. naturalization application down the road. And so we're seeing, the L1 category being used more, but the E2 category, I would say, is still by and large what most investors are using. And that's because a lot of investors don't have a business in Canada that they can say, I'm transferring myself from this business to a U.S. affiliate.
Right.
The E2 category doesn't require that. You can start something totally new. You can sell your house in Canada, buy a business in the United States. It could be anything, like a restaurant, a gas station. It can be any kind of business, or you can just start something new. And we've seen, Maria and I have worked together on a few different types of businesses. It's been a lot of different types of businesses, anything that you can think of. You can start a business, and if you can show you're investing in that, you're committed to it, and again, with a proper business plan, I think you can convince U.S. immigration that they'll at least give you a shot at it. And then it's up to you to take that business.
Yep.
Stick around, and we're going to help you prove it too.
Exactly. No,
and one of the things, Doug, I wanted to mention, and just for you to clarify, is that with the E2 investor visa, I don't know if that's the only one, but the investor can also bring their family and be able to stay for 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually E2 visas, depending on the nationality, I'll focus on Canadians. The visa itself would be valid for a period of 5 years for citizens of Canada. Now, there is a bit of confusion because when you enter the United States, you get an admission record from U.S. Customs that allows you to live continuously for 2 years. But you can still use that visa in your passport over the next 5 years to be traveling back and forth. And usually you will get a new 2-year I-94 admission record close to when the current one is expiring if you're traveling. But that is something you have to monitor. But separately, yes, dependents are allowed to obtain dependent visas. So that would include a spouse and any children that are unmarried and under the age of 21. For the children, they'll be able to go to any schools in the United States with that status. And the spouse actually obtains an open work permit in that status now that allows them to work or go to school in the United States.
Wow, I mean that's probably, I see why that would be a very attractive visa type for an investor with a family.
Yeah, exactly, and there are definitely different ways to structure it. I mean, we've seen, especially with husband and wives, that initially maybe one of the couple members is thinking of being the active worker and being the investor. But when they realize that actually, if I go in as the spouse, I get the open work permit, that gives them the ability to take on that role, give their spouse the investor visa, and they can still work together as the spouse with the open work permit. You can still manage the business that is owned by the family, but if you have other skills that you can perhaps take advantage of and find a U.S. employer, the U.S. employers are going to look at you more attractively, I think, given that they don't need to sponsor you for a work permit. They can just employ you on your E2 dependent status. And that's another potential path to a green card. If you find an employer and they want to keep you there, maybe they will sponsor you for a green card. And so, there's definitely different ways to take advantage of the category. But because of that advantage for dependents, especially the spouse, it's a great category to think about.
This is awesome.
Yep.
Well, this has been so incredible, great information, Doug. It's been super. I know our audience and our viewers, our listeners are going to get so much value out of this show. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you have anything else on your mind that we didn't ask you that our viewers should actually know about?
I don't think so. I mean, I think,
So, what is the best way to reach you, Douglas?
Yeah, so I think you see our office number there is coming up across the bottom of the screen. I have an email address that we could share. That's another way to send me an email with the background, and we can schedule a call that way as well. I think either of those options would work fine. Okay.
Yeah. No, this has been very informative. I wish we had more time. Yeah, because there's a lot of. But what it brings is two things. One, that if there's questions, people need to reach out, because I imagine that there's questions out there from either side, either be a U.S. resident or a foreign national. But number two, the importance of getting qualified individuals, because you can see the different strategies depending on what are the goals, different vehicles to achieve the goal. So then why is it important to hire somebody like yourself that is looking into, depending on the strategy, you can go to Google something and get yourself misinformed and not achieve the goal. So I appreciate your time, and I know that the audience will gain a lot of good, valuable information from listening to this.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's been a real pleasure to join you both today and share what I know. And I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's listening and answer any specific questions and see if there's a way that we can help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. So usually we close the show, Doug, with a little quote from the motivational speaker, Jim Rohn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I hope that today, the 3 of us we were the 3 of the 5 people you are spending your time with to know the information you need to grow your business. Stay in touch. Stay in touch with us until the next show. Be well, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.